All right, testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. I want to thank everybody for coming out to the Springboro Tea Party's reaffirmation of the Bill of Rights rally. This has been in planning for a little while, and we've been putting a lot of time and effort into it, and every last penny we could to try to get this bad boy to happen. So if anybody has good favor with the man upstairs, say a little prayer, and hopefully we have clear skies throughout the whole event. Okay, next we'll bring up Teresa. She's from the Westchester Tea Party, and she's going to discuss workplace freedom. And right after that, we're also going to bring up Bruce Hull. He's the director of the Dayton Workplace Freedom, so they can kind of have a interesting piggyback on each other, and that's just going to be some pretty good stuff there. Again, I'd like to stress, if you need refreshments, session stands open, and also merchandise is available as well. So welcome up, Teresa.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here today. I want to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. I read something recently that said, it's talking about giving speeches, and it said, you can always dispute what someone else says and that you've read in a book. People can always dispute what you get on the internet, but they can't dispute what you have experienced in your own life. So I'm going to give you something that I've experienced in my own life before I get down to the PowerPoints that I want to tell you about workplace freedom. I began my career in industrial sales in 1981. And I had the opportunity to work in the Dayton, Troy, Piqua, Lima, Springfield, Ohio area. I was a young woman back then, and I was had a young child. I was a divorced mom, and I had a young child to support. And I was blessed to have been given the opportunity to get into industrial sales at that time. And while many of the other salespeople didn't want to drive to Dayton, Troy, Piqua, Springfield, and Lima, I was very honored to have that territory to develop. And it was a wonderful, wonderful area for me. I met a lot of wonderful people up here. I met a lot of people whose parents, either they or their parents, were from my home state of Western Kentucky. And there was a friendliness about the people here that I enjoyed for many, many years. And I was able to support my daughter. I paid for her wedding. I put her through college. Thanks to the industry. Thanks to the Rust Belt of Ohio. I had accounts like Navistar, International Harvester. I sold safety products. I sold everything from hard hats down to the boots, the gloves, the protective clothing. I'm sure many of you here are familiar with what I did. Many of you may have even worked in some of the factories I called on. Things have changed. We have a neighbor to the north, Michigan. We have a neighbor to the west, Indiana. And they've both become right-to-work states. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that now. I'm going to tell you about Ohio Workplace Freedom Amendment. And every one of you out there can make a difference for this great state of Ohio. Every one of you can get out and get signatures and help us get this on the ballot in a year. Okay, Ohio Workplace Freedom Amendment guarantees that Ohioans have a choice in whether or not they join a labor union and pay dues or fees at their workplace as a condition of employment. So it's about freedom. It's about choice. It's the choice to join a union or not join a union. The overall effects of union companies are far less competitive in an ever-changing and growing global market. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in a global market. Therefore, companies open or they move to other states and often other countries where they have the ability to profit. Forced union states are at a significant disadvantage to workplace freedom states in attracting and retaining business. Therefore, they have much less potential for prosperity. What is forced unionization? In a workplace, if a workplace is unionized, in order to have a job that in order to have a job at that place of business, a worker can be forced to pay union dues and fees just to have that job. The employer has no choice whether the place is unionized or not. What is the Ohio Workplace Freedom? It guarantees the freedom of Ohioans to choose whether or not to participate in a labor organization as a condition of employment. Now, we're all about freedom here, aren't we? More information about the amendment. There is no law, no rule, no agreement or arrangement shall require any person or employer to become or remain a member of a labor organization. Why is it needed in Ohio? Well, I gave you some personal reasons a little bit earlier. Ohio is currently a forced union state. If a workplace is unionized, you are forced to join that union. They have no choice. We want to create more prosperity in Ohio. By doing that, we're going to have to make Ohio a right-to-work state. This is what the amendment does not do. It does not end unions or forbid any union contract provision other than forced dues or fees, collective bargaining not affected. It does not prevent unions from being formed. It does not prevent anyone from joining a union. And it does not apply to employees of federal government. Okay. As I said earlier, our neighbor to the north and our neighbors to the west have become workplace freedom states. We've already lost a couple of companies that I know of for sure to Indiana. They've shut their doors and moved to Indiana. Did you know that there's fewer jobs in Ohio than there were in January in 1990? In 5 out of 10 industries. Mining, logging, construction, manufacturing, trade, transportation, utility, and information. They're all fewer. Did you know that Ohio's job economy is one of the worst in the United States? It's been the 50th since the early 2000s. During this time period, Ohio has lost over 500,000 jobs, making us second only to Michigan job loss. Average net job growth in the workplace freedom states is 42.5%. It's 5 times more than Ohio. So our jobs are moving south, and I want to give you another personal little tidbit of information. I went into another type of sales about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. It's a product that's used in the manufacturing of cars, automobiles. It's a product that goes into the manufacturing of rubber parts specifically. Shortly after I began my job with that company, all the business started moving to Mexico. Now, we have NAFTA to thank for that. NAFTA and CAFTA and all the other trade agreements, which is a totally different subject. And my personal feeling is we need trade, but this is not exactly what I consider really fair trade, because how can you compete with jobs that are going to Mexico where people are making $1.35 an hour? And I know this to be a fact because I still call on people that deal with General Motors. They sell things like radiator hoses to GM. So I know what these people are making down there in Mexico. That's where a lot of your jobs went. Okay. Now, I mentioned Michigan. President Obama railed about Michigan legislation, calling the right to work is giving you the right to work for less money. Well, there's a real principle at stake here. A free country should allow its workers to choose whether or not to join a union. Without jobs, there's no money, and that's what's happening here in Ohio. Maybe President Obama isn't aware of the average job growth in workplace freedom states is about 5 times more than in Ohio. Maybe he isn't aware that in workplace freedom states, wages and salaries, job growth have been 3 times what it's been here in Ohio in the past 12 years. Or just maybe he's more concerned about lining the pockets of the Democrat Party with the union dues that's given to them. Could that be it? Democrats seem to be the party of choice in most everything, except for when it comes to things like choosing your child's school or choosing whether or not to join a union. So, we're not going to get any support on this, ladies and gentlemen, from Columbus, because Kasich has already said that he will not support us. We have to get out and do it ourselves. We have to get signatures. We need around 500,000 signatures by next year to get this on the ballot. Once it's voted for and approved and becomes part of the Ohio Constitution, then it becomes law. Michigan and Indiana both are now workplace freedom states. There are 24. Help us make Ohio the 25th right-to-work state. Okay? And one more thing here that just happened to me within the last 2 weeks. I'm proud of this in a way, and I'm sad about this in a way. I used to call in a company called Cooper Tire. Are any of you familiar with Cooper Tire up in Bowling Green, Ohio? Well, I called on them for about 8 years in Bowling Green, Ohio. They shut the plant down. I got a call recently from their plant down in Kentucky. Now, Kentucky is not a right-to-work state, but I know that by having a sister-in-law who was a personnel manager for 35 years at a plant there, they're a little more friendly work environment than Ohio is. They closed the Ohio plant and they moved to Kentucky. So I got a call from Cooper in Kentucky, and I was able to write the business down there, but I couldn't sell in Ohio because they closed the doors, because Kentucky is non-union. Their workers are happy. You know, we have enough laws, and I don't want to go on too long. I want to introduce Bruce. We have enough laws now. We have so many federal laws. It's not what it was. Unions are not what they were 30, 40 years ago. They were needed. I agree, they were needed. My father was in a union. My whole family, my grandparents were union. But we have so many anti-discrimination laws. We have OSHA. We have a whole list. I cannot go on. If you would get Matt Mayer's book about taxes in Ohio, what's the name of it, Ann? Is anybody? Matt Mayer's book. Taxpayers Don't Stand a Chance. Read about the unions and look what's happened over the past 10 or 15 years. And I just ask you, I ask you to please get out there and help. Bruce is around here. Bruce Hull, I ran into him a few minutes ago. He's actually the director. He's been doing this longer than I have, and Bruce is going to come talk to you about how to get started. Thank you very much. And let's bring some business back to Ohio.
Give me shelter, don't leave me behind. It's your last life, don't leave me behind. So much pain now, don't leave me alone. Under the cellar door, beneath the floor. So get ready to turn around, 'cause it's your last life to bring me down. So much pain now, I've seen this before. Under the cellar door, to the edge. I've been out all night and it's gone right to my head. 100 miles an hour and not slowing down. I got the pedal pressed to the floor. I've had me enough, but I still want some more. Come on, give me some more. I've got no time for love tonight, because there's someplace else I'd rather be. A higher place in my so-called society. There's red lights in my rearview mirror and another bridge is burned. There's no turning back, I've reached the point of no return. I've reached the point of no return. I want it all and I want it now. I want my cake and eat it too. I'd like to burn the candle at both ends, it's true. When will it stop? Well, nobody knows. I'm trying to go as fast as I can. There's no end in sight and I wanna do it all again. Come on, let's do it again. Stuck here in no man's land, headed out to parts unknown. I've been under the radar, but now my cover's blown. Looks like my luck's running out this time, and another lesson's learned. There's no turning back, I've reached the point of no return. The man is moving up on me fast. Looks like it's the end of the road. I'm not gonna make it home, I got no place to go.